My boyfriend has a bad family and even worse father, should we break up? This is my first post I ever make here. I literally made this account just so I could ask this question cause it has been driving me insane for months now and I just don't have the courage to ask a friend for any advice on this situation. I hope this doesn't end up as me actually being in a hole. Just for context, I was raised in a nuclear family. I had very present parents growing up and two amazing brothers. Aside from my direct family, I grew up with very loving uncles, cousins, and aunts, as well as two grandfathers and one of my grandmothers. We always celebrated holidays, went on vacation, and had lots of fun throughout my childhood years. Truth is, I wouldn't change my family for anything in this world, and everyone is incredibly sacred to me. On the other hand, my boyfriend was raised in a broken household. His father did bad stuff to his brother when they were toddlers and his mom got a divorce from his dad when he was 11 years. Never celebrated anything really, no New Year's, no Christmas, no Halloween, no Valentine's, nothing. Adding to that, the rest of his family, uncles, aunts, cousins, etc., seems to be terrible to him and his mom and brother in every sense of the way. He's always saying how they take advantage of his mom's economic wealth and how hypocritical they are because they never support his mom during bad times and often trick her into giving them money for useless investments. I don't know exactly what that is. His dad is now working abroad, apparently spending all his money on nightlife ladies and video games, something he tirelessly tells me every time the subject about his dad's situation comes up. I don't really know his family despite us being a couple for 2 years now because he's been scared of introducing me to them, probably because he's not proud of them and is trying his best to dissociate from them. I've always asked him to say anything positive about a family member that wasn't his mom or brother and he simply says something derogatory about them and, sadly, his POV is the only POV I've got to inform myself about what is happening there. As you can imagine, his situation breaks my heart. Sometimes I wish I could lend my family to him so he can learn a life lesson or two from actually caring people, but I don't think it would be a good idea because all this situation is making me question my relationship with him in the first place. His family's conflict is inherently making me think about what would happen if I were to become a part of his family if we ever get married. Where I live it is said that when you marry a person you're also marrying their family and our society really does work like that, and in a way is something I would actually like for myself too. I've always been kind of a traditionalist when thinking about relationships. I have that cliché dream of getting married, possibly having kids, traveling the world, and happily dying alongside my partner. After being so exposed to stories on TV, the internet, and my own friends, I've become very concerned with making sure I'd have a loyal and loving partner in my life/father for my children because I've seen how horridly common it is for people to have negligent or violent people in their lives, just like my boyfriend did. In terms of personality, he's always been a pretty quiet person. I don't know if this helps but he's an INTP, but somewhat outgoing when he's with specific people. In the beginning he seemed mysterious and that kind of made me build confidence and be the one to approach him. I'm an ISFJ so I really went out of my comfort zone for this, but after some time and after getting to know all of this about his family I'm not sure if I'll be able to keep up with this anymore. Oh, also, he's a, mind you, incredibly talented programmer, and I'm a hobbyist pianist. As you may realize, we're polar opposites and that was also very fun when we started dating. That, and our friend group is incredibly amazing and we're all such good friends, but again, this family thing has become a pretty big deal breaker for me, and as time goes on and the situation worsens he's also been starting to just give me the bare minimum in our relationship and I'm concerned that it will go on forever. Anyways, I feel like I'm going on tangents, but there's so much I wish I could explain to give context, but for simplicity's sake, I think I'm most concerned about 3 things specifically. I guess I'll write them as questions. 1. Will my boyfriend be a bad father figure/partner if he had a bad father growing up? 2. How important do you think it is for a person to come from a loving family to be able to build a loving household of their own? 3. Do you think there's anything I could do for him from my position or should I break up with him and save myself from trouble? I apologize if all of this sounds like a bunch of rambling. This is the first time I try to verbalize all of this and honestly I'm a little desperate right here. I know I'm thinking very ahead in time since I'm so young and we still got a lot to live, but he's my first stable relationship and I really wish I could have my love story. I don't think I'd ever be able to meet someone as cute and charming as he is. TL, DR, my boyfriend's family sucks, his father is a bad person, and I'm very concerned with being with someone from a stable family since I come from a very stable home myself and consider family to be sacred. Will my boyfriend be a bad father figure / partner if he had a bad father growing up? How important do you think it is for a person to come from a loving family to be able to build a loving household of their own? Do you think there's anything I could do for him, a person with family issues, from my position, as a GF, or should I break up with him and save myself from trouble? Story 2. I feel alone in my relationship with my partner. Hi, this is my first time posting and I'm on mobile, so I'm sorry if it's formatted wrong. I have been with my partner for 3 years and we have a 1-year-old son together. His mental health went downhill not long after our son was born and he's been struggling with it since. I encouraged him to go to the doctors and he is taking medication and speaking to a therapist. He had a session today and told me how he was being encouraged to take up a hobby that's just for him because whenever he does something that is just for him normally he feels guilty, and isn't able to relax. I don't have an issue with this and have actually tried to get him to take something like running or continuing with his climbing hobby, which he did before we met. He said that his therapist thinks this is a good idea because he doesn't have a safe space because at work and at home he's constantly being told he's not doing enough or he's not good enough. Here's where I'm struggling to understand. I do almost all the housework and childcare. He works full-time in chain restaurant as a chef, so his hours can be all over the place, but typically his shifts are about 9 hours long and he works 5 days a week. I work part-time in a more consistent job and I'm contracted nearly half the amount of hours he is. Our child is in a nursery when I'm working. He has arranged to have one of his days off on one of my working days so that he can have the whole house to himself for his mental health for about 10 hours each week. I was the one that suggested and thought it would help him. When I first suggested this arrangement, I asked that on that day he could potentially do a couple of chores, such as hoovering the living room or washing up from the day before, but he's since said I'm putting too much pressure on him and he can't do it, so I've stopped expecting him to, and now I'll maybe ask him to do a load of laundry. His only household chore is to put the bins out for collection once a week and sort dinner on the day he is off and I'm at work. I don't feel like I'm constantly putting him down or telling him he's not doing things properly like he says. I don't expect him to do any chores or cooking, but I'll occasionally ask for help with some things. He doesn't really do that much, and I'm not saying that to put him down, but he doesn't, so I don't understand how I can always be telling him off for doing things wrong. And now since we've spoke, I feel like I can't come to him at all because if I ask for help I'm asking too much and putting too much pressure on him. I can't tell him when I'm feeling overwhelmed because I'm just making him feel bad that he isn't stepping up. I have no one else to turn to. Since having my son I don't see my friends anymore really, and I've had to stop talking to my mom about it because I can sense that she's starting to get annoyed with him when she hears how much I'm doing. We barely spoke these past few weeks because I could sense he wasn't himself and I didn't want to upset him further, so it feels like I'm treading on eggshells, but he says he feels that same about me. He's admitted that he thinks how it would be easier if he was single, but he would miss me. He says this isn't an us issue but something that he just feels, but I don't know where I'm supposed to go from here. How can his home not feel like a safe space when he's home? He mainly sits on YouTube or the PlayStation. I think I'm rambling because I just feel so lost. I've tried so hard to be supportive, but somehow I'm the problem. I'm doing everything I can to keep my family together, but it's clearly not enough. I feel like there's so much context I'm missing here, but I just don't have anyone to turn to and talk about it all with, and I just feel like I'm fading into the background. Does anyone have any advice on where I should go from here? Or maybe what I'm doing wrong? Comment. He's lying to his therapist. If what you are saying is true, then he's lying. Expecting him to help around the house is not telling him he's not good enough. He may see it that way, but I would bet he's presenting it differently. Playing victim because you expect him to contribute and he doesn't want to. Just my take. I'm sorry you are struggling with your partner's mental health issues. Have you spoken with his therapist? It sounds like your partner is manipulating you into believing only his mental health is of importance. Of course he would miss you if he were single. He would need to do everything for himself that you are currently doing. I recommend you seek couples counseling or start planning to be a single mother. Look, it sounds like you're doing a lot for your partner and being understanding, but maybe there's more to the story that you're not seeing or sharing, so it might be worth considering his perspective and having an open conversation to figure out what's really going on. Sounds like baloney to me. He should be working at home and parenting whenever he is not at work. Time off should be negotiated and you should both get roughly the same amount. Housework should be shared equitably. He is lazy and what you are getting from him is excuses. Of course his life is better if he doesn't do anything but work. Story 3. My boyfriend keeps ghosting me after arguments. Hello everyone, my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 months now. It's been great overall, however a behavioral pattern has popped up and I don't know how to deal with that. I love him so much and we are a great match, but he lacks empathy sometimes. I had issues at work yesterday and was scared I'd get fired for something I did not do. I told him how shocked I was and he started making lightheaded jokes about the situation. I told him that this is a serious matter regarding my livelihood and that I don't want him to make fun of it, but he then continued to do so for 2 more messages. I was incredibly hurt and texted him, "BF, I love you so much, but this was one of the worst things you could have possibly said to me in this situation. I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but you've really hurt me and what you said made me feel like I wasn't being heard and like I wasn't being taken seriously. Please be better in the future, that's all I'm asking." He was with family at that time, so I didn't expect him to respond right away, but he read it and then left me unread. This was around noonish. I texted him good night and I hope he had fun with his relatives around midnight, but now it's the next morning and he still hasn't answered. He always leaves when it comes to these kinds of conversations. He once said it's a trauma response and he doesn't mean to hurt me, but I told him that him ghosting me is causing my own past trauma to resurface. How should I proceed? I really love him and I'm happy with him, but this behavior is unacceptable in my book. Just telling me he needs some time to cool off would have been fine. Comment. Speaking from personal experience here. My boyfriend and I had very different ways that we dealt with arguments too. He would distance himself thinking that giving me space was a sign of love and respect. I would want to talk things out as quickly as possible, thinking that distance means that he doesn't care. You need to sit down with him and create a plan how you're going to deal with arguments in a way that fits both of you, discuss ways of coping and set boundaries. It will save you a lot of pain and make the relationship so much stronger. If I was in your situation, I would give him the last chance by having a very well structured talk, like, right now we're going to figure out how to deal with arguments and say what bothers me, how he could fix that, and what I am willing to compromise to. A clear structure might help him understand. If he still acts so nonchalantly, then I'm sorry, but in my opinion there's no hope to make this relationship work with only one person trying. Y'all have been dating 2 months. How many arguments could you possibly have had? Just call him and tell him you'd like a response when you message and he sees it, even if it's just a text explaining that he doesn't feel like talking.